So can you live off $38,000 a year? Well, I hope so, because if you plan on retiring at 60, that's what they say you're gonna get. Here are the numbers. The average lifespan is 77 years old. The estimated retirement span would be 17 years, but the median 401k value is $210,000, which roughly gives you about $12,352 a year and some change. Social Security is going to work out to be about $22,000 a year. The average savings is $60,000. At best, that's $3,529. So when you break it all down, it's just under $38,000 a year. I mean, we've been taught to give them control of our money, to trust the system, to trust the financial advisors, trust the big banks, trust Wall Street, but yet we still remain broke and we're still living paycheck to paycheck. Isn't it funny how that works? Seems like it's all broken. So why don't we just flip the script? Why don't we just take back control of the money and stop giving control to those who make profit off of our money working for them? Seems simple, doesn't it? So today, I'm gonna show you how to take back control of your money. I'm gonna show you how to be your own bank. And you know, the best part is you don't have to be some mathematician, you don't have to have a school or some certification. All you need to do is change one thing, and that's where your money goes, and then apply a process. And you gotta be willing to think different. Look, this is the same thing that the wealthiest families throughout history have done. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Morgans, the Stanleys. I mean, Walt Disney started Disneyland with this. Ray Kroc, yeah, you know, McDonald's, him too. So before you start dismissing this as a scam, all I need you to understand is the only way you're ever gonna get where you wanna be is by taking back control of the banking functions in your life. And wealth takes time. There's no get rich quick scheme here. No get rich quick ever worked. So we're gonna talk about the real stuff. The real stuff that will change your life, get you out of debt, and get you off the financial hamster wheel and living the financial slavery that we all have been taught to live. Most people think they need another job. They go out and get a side hustle. They work overtime because that's what we've been taught to do, to trade our time for money. And for some people, maybe that's the case. But I will tell you, the best way to build wealth is through your own debts and expenses. By recapturing and recycling all the money you're giving away, you pay interest back to yourself instead of giving interest to them. That, to me, seems like a much better way to do it, because it's money that's leaving your household that you're just gonna take back. And that's what we're gonna get into. It doesn't require more income. What it requires is you telling your money where to go instead of you wondering where your money actually went. It's a proven system that allows your dollars to work for you instead of you working for dollars. It allows you to buy things and get all the money back for all the cars you buy, drive, and own. Actually, get all the money back for everything you finance. As a matter of fact, this is why the 1% have control of their money and keep getting wealthier. By the end of this, you're gonna wish you started sooner. So stick around and let me help you get off the financial hamster wheel and start building real wealth. So check this out, 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every single day. That's 4 million baby boomers a year. That's a lot of people retiring on top of the silent generation and everybody else that's just like, I'm done, no more of this stuff. The pandemic certainly escalated this. People realized, hey, you know what? I'm done with this rat race. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna enjoy my life. But along with that enjoyment came a whole lot of thought around risks. What kind of risks am I talking about? Well, if you look at the number one risk that most retirees talk about, it's outliving their income. There are so many retirees worried about living too long because they don't think they're gonna have enough money, which is gonna provide enough income to last their entire life. I mean, hey, come on. There's always Social Security, right? Can you live off Social Security? If you can, you are definitely the minority and you are definitely not living your best life. So what I wanted to do today is I want to just kind of hit on some of the risks retirees face. 10,000 retirees a day face all of the same risks. But I don't want to just hit on the risks. I want to show you how you don't need to worry about these things. How a lot of these risks can be completely wiped away by just changing some simple things with how you take your income and how you invest your money. So if you want to stop worrying about what your retirement's going to look like, watch the rest of this video. So in today's video, all I want to do is show you how to mitigate the risks most retirees face. And I just created this little list to make sure that these are the risks you're facing. So check it out. Are you worried about living too long, like outliving your money? Are you worried about volatility in the markets? Yeah, a lot of people are. Matter of fact, recently we've had some major corrections in the market which have resulted in a lot more fear amongst retirees. How about income protection? A lot of retirees worry about the income they're gonna leave to their spouse or even their kids. So a lot of times they don't even take enough money or as much money as they could from their retirement because they're like, well, if I do, I'm not gonna leave my kids anything. That's a risk that a lot of people easily can get rid of. Not only that, taxes. You worried about taxes? You worried about healthcare? You worried about healthcare costs going up? I mean, gosh, there's so many risks that retirees face. Wouldn't it just be nice if you didn't have to worry about anything? Wouldn't it just be nice if every day you're in retirement, you just had to worry about how you're gonna go out and spend your money? And I mean all of the money. Because you did work for this money, right? You worked your tail off to build your retirement up. I mean, you should literally enjoy all of it during this period of time. Well, let's dive in. I don't want to waste any time, and I definitely don't want to miss anything. So let me just show you how to get rid of these risks. Hey, there's another risk I face, and it is that you are not subscribed to this channel. So let's get that risk out of the way. Click the subscribe button. There's a little bell up top. Smash that bell. Matter of fact, just like all those risks, what you want to do is you just want to give it a little jab, and then you want to give it a right hook. Oh, see, I missed. So it's a left hook instead. You can pick which hand and which hook. Just smash the bell so you're notified every time I put new content out. So as we dive into this, I want to give some context as to where a lot of this information came from. You see, there's this white paper that was created, and this is where a lot of it came from. Emphasis on volatility buffers. That is exactly what we want to talk about. We want to get rid of volatility in your portfolio for retirement. But I want to read a section of it. So it's right here in their executive summary. In the executive summary, it said, we investigate whether more efficient retirement income solutions can be obtained through careful efforts to combine investment portfolios, income annuities, and whole life insurance into an overall retirement plan. You see, a basic investment portfolio allocates assets between stocks and bonds. Now, stocks are volatile investments which focus on growth, and bonds typically are used to reduce the overall portfolio volatility. The benefits from investment strategies are liquidity, upside growth potential, and a whole bunch of others. But investments alone do not necessarily create an efficient retirement plan. So what do I mean by efficiency, or what do they mean by efficiency? By efficiency, what we mean is there may be alternative ways to structure retirement assets, and life insurance may be able to be used during the working years to be able to support a higher level of retirement spending, as well as equal or greater amounts of financial assets to be available as part of your legacy. Now that was a mouthful, but really all they're trying to say is we want your retirement to be efficient. So let's just dive right in. What kind of options do you have? Well, what I did is I took the exact same case study that they used in that white paper. So this case study was a couple that was 50 years old, James and Julie we'll call them, and here's kind of what their portfolio looked like. The first thing that they were told and that they looked at was the age-old buy term and invest the difference. You've probably heard of that, right? A lot of people say that's the best strategy because you can save the most amount of money, which is true. It's not true that it's the best strategy, but true that it allows you to save the most amount of money in investments. So in this scenario, if we start at age 50 and we save to age 65, this couple would have $3.2 million at the age of 65, of which they then can start drawing from to provide an income. Now, during those working years, they wanted to protect their income, which they did with a term insurance policy, and we just looked at a 15-year duration term, so it's only around for 15 years, hence term insurance. The premiums were $1,120 a year, and it gave them $500,000. So when you really look at this summary in this case study, what happened? Well, they retired, And when they retired, they started drawing out $89,000. Why $89,000? Well, they did some calculations and they used what they call the 4% rule to figure out how much they could draw, but they also wanted to make sure that they could take money for their entire life, which meant they couldn't take 4%. Matter of fact, the study, which is called the Monte Carlo, showed that they could only sustain a 2.69% withdrawal rate from their 401k if they were gonna make the long haul. This is what we talk about, worries about living too long. So if they wanted to make it based on these studies, the Monte Carlo, they could only take $89,361, and that it works out to be a 2.69% spending. Now that sucks. I'm just gonna tell you. Right now you don't know the relevance of that, but let me just take you a couple steps further. What if we could change that? What if we could give you more income, but you really didn't have to change much of anything except for how your investment assets are allocated and what you do during the accumulation phase, which is those 15 years from 50 years old to 65. That's it. Now, again, all this information came out of this white paper, and this white paper was written by two very wise and smart people, and they both had a PhD, and one had a CFA and the other was a CFP. Lots of letters, you can look those up on your own, but let's just get into the numbers of what this strategy is. So this strategy, the first option, which we'll call this number 2, is called the covered asset strategy. So what it does is it includes 2 additional vehicles that were not included in that buy term invested difference. Number 1, it includes a single premium immediate annuity. So think of an immediate annuity as just a place where you can move money to, and it can be a qualified rollover, which is what we're gonna look at here. And when you move the money into it, what it does is it provides you a guaranteed income for the rest of your life. And there's lots of variables in it, but let's just assume that this one pays out a guaranteed income for the rest of this person's life. And if they die too soon, like they don't live to their life expectancy, their family gets a cash refund of the money that was not spent that they put into that, okay? So that's a single premium immediate annuity, a guaranteed vehicle issued by a giant insurance company. The second component we're going to add here is it's not going to be a term insurance. What we're going to use is permanent insurance called whole life insurance. Now, some of you have heard bad things about this, but once you see how this is used, you're going to think different. So right here, we're going to basically save less money. Remember, buy term invested difference had over $3 million. Now, because we diverted some of the money that would have went into the 401k over here to this 15-pay whole life insurance policy. Now in the summary and in this case study, they just used an off-the-shelf whole life insurance policy. Now obviously you know what I teach is the infinite banking concepts, using specially designed and engineered whole life policies that have higher early cash value. But here, we're just looking at an off-the-shelf whole life insurance policy that your broke-ass brother-in-law sold you during the Thanksgiving break. So, how much did that thing cost? Well, $21,255 per year. So this couple, and I did forget to tell you, had $40,000 in disposable income that they could save. So they wanted to maximize their retirement. They wanted to make sure they were gonna make it. So they had 40 grand, of which now we divert 21,255 to this 15-pay whole life insurance policy, which means less money went into the 401k. Got it? So what did that mean? Well, that means now they only have $2.6 million in their 401k, but that whole life that they put money into for 15 years has $502,463 of cash value that could be used anytime during that period of time. Could be used in an emergency, could be used to supplement a retirement. Maybe they didn't want to wait till age 65 to retire. They could have started taking income tax-free from the whole life. But for this purpose, the only thing we're trying to do with this is make sure that should this gentleman die, there is a death benefit paid out to his family so they can continue this awesome retirement that we're going to be talking about here in a second. And that death benefit works out to be $1,037,351 if this client died. So right then and there, there's a big difference between the first and the second. The first one was a term policy, which ended It ended at age 65. Now, some of you might be saying, yeah, but why didn't you do a 20-year or a 30-year? You could have, but it still is guaranteed to end in 20 years or 30 years. Here, with the whole life, it never, ever ends. Okay? So now, why do we want to provide this death benefit for the rest of this person's life? Well, I'll tell you why. We plan to spend all of the 401k money. Now, in this example, we're not going to spend it all. Matter of fact, there's going to be a lot left over at this person's life expectancy, but I want you to think about that. If you didn't have to worry about leaving money to your kids or to your spouse, and you could just spend all that money that you worked really hard to accumulate, wouldn't that mean you could probably take more money? It absolutely would. But you see, I haven't addressed the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and that is, how do you not outlive your money? Because you can't do anything about the markets going up and down, but what you can do is you can guarantee your income for your basic living expenses. So now everybody has basic living expenses. What are those? Well, it might be a mortgage or rent, however you live. Could be your groceries, your cars, your food, all those things. Everything that you spend money on every single year that happens year after year after year, those are your things you want to guarantee. You want to wake up every single day knowing there's a check coming in that will pay all those, and you want to make sure that that income coming in that protects those goes up every year with something like an inflation protection, right? So that's what we did with this one. We're going to put an inflation protection on your income so that every year, based on the COLI, which is the cost of living index, your income goes up to match that. So here's how it works. This couple retired at age 65. They had $2.6 million in their 401k. But what they're going to do is a qualified rollover of $650,000 of their 401k, which is in investments. They're going to roll that over into one of these guaranteed single premium immediate annuities. Now, this is a really great time to look at immediate annuities. Now, this study's a little old, so the numbers today would probably look better than they do here. Now, I'm not giving you investment advice or making any recommendations here, but I know in higher interest rate environments like we're at right now, that study was done in 2018. I know these things pay out more, but let's just look at a worst case scenario. Someone moves $650,000 at 65 years old. This scenario would pay $56,224 per year. That's $56,000 every year coming in the door, whether the markets are up or down, it doesn't matter. And every year it's going to go up based on the consumer price index. That's it, the CPI, okay? So now, over here, this 650 now guaranteed us $56,224. So what does that do for the numbers? Because remember, the first scenario, buy term invest difference, allowed for a little over $89,000 in income per year if they wanted to make the long haul. And that was a little over, I think just a little under 3% withdrawal rate. So what are we looking at now? Well, if all we did is we just added the SPIA and this special, it's not even a specially designed whole life, this normal whole life, look at this. Our sustainable spending from this 401k, which by the way has less money because it's got 1.95 million, but our sustainable spending has now increased to 4.3. But none of you care about any of that. All you are saying to me is you're saying, how much money can I take in this scenario? Great, I'm glad you got to that. $114,895 per year, of which $56,224 is guaranteed, all based on this. And we will put a link to this in the description if you want to read it. But so what does that mean here? Well, that means you now, without really changing anything, actually with having less money in your 401k, you now could take more income with less risk. Yes, but wait, there's more. Let me show you how to make this even better. So this is the third option. This is where you really should start paying attention. Up to this, I've just been getting warmed up and I've just been trying to get you interested in a little bit of insight of how you can make your retirement look better. But let me cut to the cheese. What if we could do exactly what I just showed you, but do it even better, and now have your income increase to $148,908, and your sustainable spending on that 401k go up to 5.67%. Wouldn't that be cool? And listen, It's the exact same thing we just did a second ago, except for now, what we're gonna do is that whole life insurance policy, and again, this is not a specially designed whole life. I could make this better if I designed it differently. That whole life, what we're going to do is we're gonna start using that whole life's cash value. So before I get into showing you how we're gonna use the cash value in the whole life, let's just recap what we're doing here. So this couple started this process at age 50, 15 years from when they were going to start retirement, which was age 65. This is just the case study. In their 401k, they were saving, they started with $700,000 and they saved $2.671,974,000 to get exact, of which they moved $650,013 into a single premium immediate annuity, leaving $1.95 million in their 401k, less than the buy term invest difference. But here's where the rubber meets the road. Remember, the SPIA, the single premium immediate annuity, was $650,000 and change, and it provided an income of $56,224, taking a lot of pressure off of the portfolio so that when you needed to take income, if the markets dropped, well, at least your basic expenses were covered. But in the other scenarios, you were still taking an income from your 401k every single month or every single year, however you take it, but you were doing it whether the markets were up or the markets were down. Now, let me just give you a little info. When the markets are going down, okay, which very well could happen in the next few years, when markets go down, taking money from a declining portfolio, from a portfolio that's losing money or at a negative return, is detrimental. It will crush your portfolio because of a thing called the drawdown effect. Every time you take money out of a portfolio that's losing value, it is harder to make that money back even when the markets turn around. That's very important. So what if we didn't have to take an income when the markets were going down? Being true. And what if we didn't have to take less money? Because in the other one, you could have just lived off the $56,224 when the markets were down, right? But who wants to do that? In this one, I want you to take the full $148,908 in income, and I want you to enjoy it. But I don't want you to worry about volatility risk, that thing I mentioned earlier. I don't want you to worry about, oh my gosh, the markets are going down. Honey, are we going to run out of money? No. We're just not going to take money from the 401k, because when the markets go down, what we're going to do is we're going to take the same income that was coming out of the 401k, but now we're going to take it from this $502,463 in cash value. In this example, your performance might be different, your policy might look different. This is just an example, folks, okay? We're going to take it from here, and we're going to then use that to support the income when the markets go down. So if you really figured it out, the income was $148,908 minus the $56,224. So whatever that works out to be, that's how much we're going to take from the whole life. And we're going to do that every year the market goes down. We're no longer going to take income from the 401k when the news and the markets are down. Now, why did I say news and markets? Because a lot of people don't watch the markets when they're retired, but they certainly watch the news. And you will know when the markets are down if you watch the news. So every single time the market goes down, we just take money from the whole life. And how do we do that? Well, there's different ways. You could take loans, which is what we teach with the infinite banking concept. But in this scenario, what we're going to do, we're going to take withdrawals because we don't want to pay the loans back. We're just going to take a withdrawal like you are from your 401k. So every year, whatever income you need, we're going to withdraw it from the whole life. And you can withdraw up to your cost basis, which is the amount of money you put into the whole life, without paying any taxes. When you hit that cost basis and we go beyond that and you're starting to take gains, we'll flip it and take loans. And that will enable you to take tax-free income from a properly structured whole life insurance policy. You got that? So let's just hit this. Just by doing that, your income went up to $148,908, of which $56,224 is guaranteed, and your sustainable spending is 5.67%. Folks, that's a win. That's a win-win. That's a winner chicken dinner right there. But see, it can even get better, because now what we're going to do in these last two, we're going to just take everything exactly how it is. So I'm not going to go through all the numbers because now you already know the numbers. What we're going to do is we're just going to talk about how you can apply the infinite banking concept to this exact same strategy to be able to take even more money. So this one, I love doing this example, but let's just assume all we're gonna do is we're gonna take money from the 401k, we're gonna move it to the SPIA, that gives us that guaranteed 56,224. When the markets are going down, we're gonna come into this cash value, and we're gonna use this cash value to support that income when the markets are going down. So you got the whole gist of what we're doing here, but here's what we're gonna do. Now, every time you wanna buy a new car, okay, we're just gonna buy the new car using the cash value of the whole life. We're gonna take a loan from the cash value of the whole life. We're gonna buy the new car for husband or wife. And then we're gonna make payments just like we would if we were to buy a car anywhere else. We're gonna make those same monthly payments that we would make. So let's just pretend we're buying a $60,000 car, and let's just pretend it's like 7 or 8% interest. So your payment's $800 a month. That's how much the dealership said that car was gonna cost you every month, whether it's a lease or a purchase. Just generalizing, right? Okay, now what we're gonna do, we're gonna take that same monthly payment, which you were already paying, but you were paying it to somebody else's bank, and we're gonna pay that back to the whole life as a loan repayment. So I'm just gonna write this here. We call this recapture and recycle, but I'm just gonna put it down, is we're gonna repay the loan we took, which is a $60,000 loan, $800 a month, and we're gonna repay that back to our policy. You know what's cool about doing it this way? You're repaying your bank, which means you're keeping the interest that you give away today. You give it away on those leases. You give it away on those car payments. We're gonna keep it now. We're no longer gonna give any money away. But the best part is, every month, when you repay your policy, there's $800 available again. And the next month you make the $800 car payment and your value goes up another $800. And every time you do that, you're reducing the interest that the insurance company's charging on the loan. So you're winning twice here. Plus, if you do this properly with the way we design them, you're still earning interest on the full $502,463, even though you took the $60,000 out. Now, I'm not gonna get into all the details on this. I've got plenty of other videos, and I'll give you one at the end that will show you exactly how this works. But listen, if this is all you did, if all you did is just bought cars, all the cars you're gonna drive for the rest of your life, you just bought those cars using your private banking system, which is this whole life you set up to mitigate the risk in your retirement. How much money would you add to the bottom line? Well, 800 times 12 is $9,600 a month. So $9,600 a month also includes interest. So the $9,600 per year that you're repaying back to your private banking system, that's your money. It's money you get to use again. It's money you could withdraw to help with that income in volatile market conditions. But it also accounts for interest. Every payment you were making on that lease, or every payment you were making on that traditional bank financing that you do on the cars you buy now, that included interest. So what I did real quick is I just pulled up a bankrate.com car loan calculator. And I was just trying to figure out how much interest could you potentially be giving away? Because I want to know, like, could this actually amount to more money in income? Well, I know it would be. So I just kind of looked it up, and it's about $16,000 over the tune of, depending on what the term of the loan is that you want to do. Because if you were going to buy a car and do a 5-year loan, that's about the amount of interest you're going to give up. About $16,000. And depending on the duration of the loan, and you're the bank. When you make this loan to buy this car from your policy, you get to choose how long you want the loan to be. I always choose the exact same amount I would finance it with the dealership. So in that scenario, it's about $11,000 to $16,000 a year. So let's just take the lower one of that, $11,000 in interest that you're giving away, divided by, I don't know, let's do 60 months. So that's about $183 extra every single month. So you put $183 a month back into your income, back into your system. You lost no liquidity and you lost no earning potential of that policy. That's just cars, folks. So let's just look at how could this even be better? Because now say you bought cars, but then you also made the money go to work even harder. So this is the final segment, and it's everything we just talked about, except for now we're gonna call this a combo, the volatility buffer plus the covered asset strategy, plus the infinite banking concept. All we're doing is taking multiple strategies right out of this white paper, which you can get in the description, and we're just kind of blending them all together. Nothing changed here. Same amount in the 401k, same amount going to the SPIA, same amount was saved in that specially designed whole life. But what we're gonna do different now, outside of buying cars, is we're gonna take another $200,000 from this 502,463. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna basically go to this site. We're gonna learn how to be the bank, okay? We're gonna go to this site called privatemoneyclub.com. And if you check it out right here and you just go to privatemoneyclub.com, you can get into this site totally free as a borrower or a lender, but we're talking about you're retired and you're gonna be a lender, you're gonna be a private lender. All right, and if you go in here and you look at some of the deals, you just go to that little section on the left, click on the deals page, and I'm not gonna spend much time here, but just look through. First one that comes up, and listen, I didn't plan this. I literally did this right now. First deal, 15% ROI rehab, first lien position on this deal. So they're looking for 150. So let's just pretend it's 200,000 so it matches my numbers, but this is pretty close. First lien, which means you're in first position. Just like the bank would be on your mortgage, you are now the bank being in first lien. And you're gonna get 15%. So let's keep going. Remember, we're buying cars using the whole life, so we got a little extra income coming in there, just an interest, but we got a lot more liquidity coming back because we're not giving up $800 every single year. That was $9,600 for that car payment you would have given to the dealership. Now you got $800 back in your retirement system, your family banking system. Now we're gonna take another 200 and we're gonna lend it out. So what does that look like? We got 200,000 lent out at a rate of 15% through Private Money Club, hypothetically. Okay, and your scenario might be different. I'm just making an example. How much is that? Well, that's $2,500 a month. $2,500 a month goes back to your whole life. So every month you have an extra $2,500 coming in. Now this is pure income. I want you to realize that. 200,000 was taken out. It went to work on Private Money Club, making 15% in a first lien position. That makes $2,500 in income, 30 grand a year. But you see, that's not net. Because when we took the 200,000 from the policy, just like the car, remember I made that example, you're gonna pay interest to the insurance company. They charge roughly between 4.7 and 5.5% right now. So let's just go in the middle, hypothetically at 5%, simple interest that the insurance company charges you. If we did that, that's $10,000 a year on $200,000, okay? So we're gonna give 10 grand of the 30 grand back to the insurance company. But remember, all 200,000 that you took out to lend on Private Money Club is still earning interest and dividends, and that's going to be somewhere between 5 and 6% gross. So now what does that mean? Well, let's just talk net, okay? If we had 30 grand coming in, but we got to give 10 back, that means $20,000 per year is coming in income. So if we just do that, 20 grand divided by 12 is $1,666. So let's just round up a little bit. $1,667 extra every month. That's $20,000. So remember, before we started with right around $148,000, and we had that sustainable income for our 401k over 5%. I think it was 5.67. Go back in the video and watch to make sure I'm right. Then we added the cars to that, which the cars brought in essentially another $9,600 gross. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add another $20,000, okay? And that's net, okay? So how much income do you have just by doing this? Well, we started at 148, and I'm generalizing here, folks. The numbers aren't exact. Plus 9,600 for buying that stupid car, but using your banking system, plus an additional 20 grand because we found this site called privatemoneyclub.com and we started lending money. Well, now your income, does anyone guess? Anyone want to guess? Your income is now roughly about $177,600. $177,000 in income. Do you remember where we started? The way that most people do it, buy, term, invest the difference, it was $89,000. We now are at $177,600. And all we did is added a stupid whole life, had less money in our 401k, guaranteed a portion to cover our basic expenses, and then started making our money work for us while we're in retirement. Because my God, folks, why would you want to work in retirement? You don't, do you? So many people do. So many baby boomers out of those 10,000 a day have to go to work after they're done working. It makes no sense. All you're doing here is making your money go to work for you. And you're doing it to try to mitigate risk. Imagine that. All of this and you are mitigating all the fears and the risks that most retirees face. Folks, if this didn't wake you up into what retirement could look like by making a couple simple changes, then I have failed you. But if it did just give you a glimmer of hope, what you should do next is watch this video right here, which teaches you all about how to be your own bank. And if you watch that video, make sure you book a call with one of our money mentors and we can walk you through what your scenario would look like. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you on the next one.